Hi, this is Roger, thanks for dropping by. Thought I'd make a start on what will be the last of the repotting, but it'll be two sets of plants. The reason I've chosen these for today was, one, I was watering the pots, so these got put to one side, and as I was handling them anyway, and also they are highly likely to get the same media, so only one lot to sort out, sort of thing. I've got my scissors and my alcohol. Let's put that to one side, otherwise it'll get knocked over. And the scissors sit on top of the glass in between and get dunked in between each plant. If I was only doing one plant, I wouldn't bother because they're always put away clean. Anyway, we've got two relatively new ones here that haven't been with me long, and two older ones, one of which I'm just not happy with what it looks like in its pot, how I was given it, and the other one has got a massive lot of new growths and I don't know what's in the pot because I haven't repotted it, so I want to get it out and have a look. And quite honestly, I'm going to do that one first. What I will do with these is do each one individually, so we'll pick the plant up, get it out of its pot, have a look at what we've got, and then they'll probably all get rinsed under the tap to clean off completely. So they'll get put in the sink in this session, and then in part two we'll come back with the cleaned up plants and discuss the media and the selected pots and things like that. If doing it all in one go, it just gets too long, and then they can be linked together as part one and part two. Right, for me this is relatively early in the day to be repotting because it's not even lunchtime yet, but I started my watering really early today and got it finished quite quickly before any heat would come. Yeah, that's a little bit what I was worried about. This is a pot full of media that's effectively not getting used. As you can see, media is just not getting used. Now, I don't know anything about this plant, but it's a relative of the Zygo lot, so we treat our roots with extreme caution and we don't mess them up. But everything down here in the pot, or nearly everything, has had it. So all of this section here is gone. Unfortunately, this section of the plant I would like to remove. This is the old, it's going to come apart anyway. What I was worried about was this little new growth, but I believe it's on its own anyway and may well be a separate plant. Well, it's going to be any minute whether it likes it or not. It's just tangled roots, it's not really joined on. So what we've got now is an old part of the plant that's gone. That's good. And then the part of the plant that's left, the little new growth, old dead roots here, one last, well, I was going to say pseudobulb, but this plant, strictly speaking, doesn't have pseudobulbs as we know them, just swellings at the base. But so what we've got here is a little side shoot with some new roots, and I'm happy that those new roots will get this little piece going. That one might be okay. That one isn't because it's broken, so we take that off. That'll do for that. As I said, you've got to be very gentle with these things, and this is this Warczewiczella timbiensis that Zana gave me. And why I've started to get worried about this is that a lot of the leaf tips are doing this. They're either, see, that's already lost its leaf tip once. They're getting pale, or they're going brown. And I was just going to say Michael McIntyre. Michael McCarthy, who is not the comedian Michael McIntyre, said that it's a lover of being wet, and if it dries out it suffers because it doesn't, strictly speaking, have the pseudobulbs as discussed. So now this could have actually Yeah, I think this has actually been potted as several pieces, looking at this, because it's just coming apart. So that's what we're going to have, is pieces, because that's what it started with. So again, we might just have one usable new growth here, and we'll get rid of the older part of the plant. I think that's actually going to work reasonably well, although that one could push out a new growth. No, let's stick with the best bits, and we'll start this again. And as I said, if I put this in, it's basically going to go in cocoa husk, probably with some charcoal, but if I start this again in that sort of media, where it will stay moist but have plenty of air. There's not a lot of air in there, is there? You know, that's a very, very confined mix. So it's had the air shut out of it to a degree. You know, I mean, you know, I don't know how long it's been in that pot. I don't think it's been in there that long. But just trimming the obviously dead roots off, not touching the good roots, keep leaving them alone, doing my best just not to touch them so they don't get bruised or bashed around. And sometimes, you know, if that actually means leaving an old root or two, well, so be it, they can stay there, rather than knock the new ones, which is effectively the life of the plant. That's what is going to keep this plant going. New ones, not the old ones. Right, again, that's going to do. The grey coloured ones, no, they're soggy, they can come off. I wondered whether they were just where they were wet. One's broken, unfortunately. Right, so that leaves us some good roots, some with growing tips on that piece. So that's two pieces. Now I'm hoping this stays as one piece, being the big piece. I mean, this piece at the back is what this new growth at the front is attached to. So this new growth here has come from this piece. This piece still has reasonable leaves. Well, I say reasonable. Seen worse, but yeah, I mean, there's a dodgy leaf tip there which we can trim up, just make it look respectable. This is the pale stuff I was on about, which we'll get rid of. It's only going to spread back. It's not so bad now. Even on this new growth, the leaves are getting pale towards the end. I mean, this leaf here hasn't even opened up yet, not properly. It has now because I've helped it. Okay, so we've got some nice roots here, and then some not so good ones around the back end. So we'll trim up this rubbish around here, get rid of that. It should leave us a reasonable set of roots on this piece. And again, you notice I haven't sort of made any effort to try and get the bark off of the roots or anything like that. I'm just not touching anything, and that's interesting because that is an old flower spike. So this piece has actually bloomed. Right, so it's another one of these grey ones. No, they are soggy. Well, that one is anyway. You can come off. What about you? Yeah, you're broken anyway, but you're right next to a new root, so we go careful. So that's it. That's all I'm doing. That will get a rinse under the tap, not handled, just the tap run over it, and that will clean a few older bits of bark off probably. So there's one dead root right in the middle of those good ones. See if I can get him. Right, so we've ended up with 3 pieces from that plant. They'll all go in the same pot, same as they were before. They'll just get their media changed and a chance for those new roots, which seem to be hovering over the top of the media and not going down in it, which is always a worry. Right, so that's number 1. Scissors a dunk. And number 2 is one that I've had a while, and it was from a guy that died at the Wessex Orchid Society, and when the plants were distributed, a friend of mine actually put this to one side because he knows I like these types of plants. So that's where this one came from. It looks like it's in cocoa husk, but the oldish part of the plant is not happy, and we do have new roots on the new growth. Yeah, that's what I thought. I was expecting to find nothing in the pot. That's just precisely what I got. These roots are gone. They're better off out the way to let the new ones grow, quite honestly. They just get in the way. There's a few pseudo bulbs can come off the back end because it's on a sloping rhizome. If I leave them on, I won't be able to put the plant in flat. So we take that part off straight away, and that part, and then we can see what we're doing. You may have a touch of pink there, you know. That piece has come off anyway. Well, if you want to come off, you can. Dead roots, leaving a piece of plant to grow on. So it's not one I specifically would have chosen for myself. However, it does have very attractive blooms, a picture of which may pop up any minute now if I've got one. Because as I said, it was actually in bloom when I got it. I'm not happy with that bulb. It's misshapen, and I don't like the colour of the rhizome. I still don't like the colour of the rhizome. I'll show you why I'm worried. I mean, you may or may not worry about these sorts of things, but I've had problems with this in the past. That has got traces of purple around the outside, and it's not the sort of plant that would have that type of discoloration naturally. So we will keep it, but we will treat it and see if we can cure it. But if it's already in this new growth, I'm not going to be very successful. The idea is to treat the plant, kill the flipping stuff off, and then get a new growth to grow out of it. Therefore being clean, if you see what I mean. And then it should grow on clean from that point and leave behind the nasties. Anyway, we will pot it up in a tiny little pot with just its new growth. We will treat it with a fungicide, which will go all over the plant and down into the pot to get the roots. But in the meantime, we will seal that rhizome with cinnamon, because that doesn't need running under the tap. That's clean already. That can just go straight in a pot. But we will seal that wound. Right, so that's that one done, and you don't go in the sink. Ugh. You threw me cinnamon on the floor then. Having a very clumsy day today, not quite sure why. I don't know whether you do, but I just have days like that, you know, where you knock things over, you pick things up and they wobble, whereas, you know, you thought you had a nice firm grip. It turns out you didn't. All that sort of stuff's been going on today. And as I've been watering my pots, that's become more and more of a nuisance. Several things got knocked over, but luckily nothing got damaged in any shape or form. And also my funny little thermostat that looks like a little fork that's actually made out of cast iron, that fell over and knocked 2 plants over. Again, that's just being clumsy. Right, so that's those. Next one is a zygo. Get my kid gloves on, metaphorically speaking. Now, the recommendation for these is to wait until the new growth is a few inches actually growing on, not just as it starts, let it grow on for a bit, and if you know your plant well enough, time it that you repot just before those new roots are going to come out, or wait until you see the nubbins and then go very, very careful and don't break them because they're fragile. Now this one has several new growths in different stages, so we've got one here that's pushing on and already has started to produce its roots in abundance, so great care will have to be taken with those. Round here we've got one also that's pushing on a bit, that's started its roots, and then there's another new growth just in there which hasn't started its roots yet, and it looks like there may even be another new growth here that may or may not push on. So this is in a state of various positions as far as the new growths are concerned. Some new growths just starting, some that have grown on beyond the point where they ought to have been repotted. Now what we've got here is an extensive root system. That is a good root system. The only problem is there may well be a sphagnum plug in the centre of this nice set of roots. Now I'm not going to touch these, this is going under the tap, and if I just ease some of this out, I think I can see the top of sphagnum. So I suspect there's a sphagnum plug in the middle, which is going to be very, very, very difficult to remove. But I'm going to get this under the tap and hope that this just falls away like this. That's actually got something I would expect to see in my pine bonsai pot. Do you know what it is? It shouldn't be in an orchid pot. Yeah, there's the sphagnum in the middle, that's what I thought. So again, most of the roots in the centre of this are going to be dead. So I don't have to take so much care in the middle of the pot, but I do have to take care with all of this, great care. So I'm not going to ease any more of that out. I've seen all I want to see. It's falling away at the bottom, which is good. So any roots that are attached to bits of bark, it's not old manky bark, but if you could see what I've just showed you on that bark, let's see if I can get some in a handful, see if you can see it better. I might be able to see it better on that piece. You see what I'm getting at? There's quite a bit of that throughout the pot. And in some plants that would be a bonus, but not in an orchid pot. So hopefully we will wash it away and it won't get a hold in the new media. So that was Zygopetalum Louisendorf. I had that once before and lost it, along with another 3 or 4 other what do you call it, zygos. I hope we don't lose any more. And then this one you're not going to like. Well, you're not going to like what I'm going to do to it anyway. A hint. I bought this to grow. Yeah, I want to try and grow this into a large zygo. Now we've got stakes on here. Stakes are attached to bloom spikes. Tell what I'm going to do yet? As I said, most people would be horrified, but I've got the long-term future of this plant in mind, and this one is in that cocoa peat. And you know what I think of that stuff, although probably zygo roots probably grow incredibly well in that stuff. Providing you don't get them soggy and you can cope with watering that media, it's actually not bad for zygos, I'd have thought. Anyway, what we've got here is this growth that's grown on and bloomed, which in my case was wasting its time because it's coming off. And then this growth has pushed on with some roots and has pushed up two spikes out of the same place, both of which are coming off. So it is now bloomless. And then what we've got here is a piece that's been broken off. Now that was staked in such a way that that wasn't obvious. So that is a separate plant, and that's the one with the new growth. So we've now got the old plant that was in bloom with no new growths. So this one's going to be a bit more of a problem to get going. But the fact that it's in that cocoa peat, it's just going to fall off. It hasn't gone off, it's not all mushroomy, so these are viable roots. They're very good roots. There's nothing wrong with this root system. Apart from that bit in there, which is the sphagnum plug. Yeah? Right, now where's that little separate bit? Oh, that's where the sphagnum plug was. So we have a little piece here. These are still going to go back in the same pot with a very old, looks like grown on from a seedling, this bit. There's just a little bit of moss in there, that will come out under the tap. The older roots are still okay, so it can keep its root system, and the little new growth is just starting some more. These roots are attached to this bulb. This one is just starting its roots, So that should pull on okay. That tiny little bulb's coming off. So that's piece number one. Hopefully if it doesn't drop and dump its old roots, which these things have a habit of doing, if it doesn't do that and keeps them, this should grow on quite nicely. It does have a few manky roots on it, not many, but a couple. Alright, so that's that one. And then this piece will hopefully shoot out now that it's had its bloom spikes taken off. Have we got a sphagnum plug in here? No, we haven't. Good. So that's a good root system that's been produced by these two growths that went on to bloom. And now, in fact, that was a double spike on here too, but one had already been taken off, leaving the one that I had, and then a double spike here. So if that's the trait of this plant, that would be nice, you know, in the future. First time round it may only produce one spike per new growth. Ah, there's the sphagnum plug. So, again, not too bad, and a few roots to come out, but not until, what I want to do is wash this so that it's clean under the tap so that I can see what I'm doing. Then we can trim anything that's obviously gone. So, I'm just getting the sheaths off. I'll leave these because they're so tight. Yeah, I'll end up damaging something trying to hook those off. When they get older, they'll separate from the pseudo bulbs, and then they can be peeled off if necessary. The only reason I don't like leaving them is because of the scale getting in there. But there's no scale on these. You know, these have been bought in, and they haven't been close enough to anything of mine that's got scale to actually catch it. They're not that mobile. They can move around scale, and they will, but you know, if they're happy with the plant they're on, they won't bother moving. They'll just stay there. And hopefully your treatment will eventually work. Eventually. Right, so that'll be part one. That's sort of getting them out. I'll now clear up, get all my bits and pieces sorted out, and then we'll come back for part two, which will be getting these cleaned up, what will be cleaned up plants, potted up. There's nothing in here that's going to get mounted, it's all going to get potted. So we'll get on with that in part two. Thanks for dropping by.